All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed.
All right, if we could go to item N6, that's the Greater Waco Chamber of Commerce Monthly Economic Development Report for January 2022.
Know that we have had one project announcement for this first quarter, and that was in McGregor with Messer.
All right, if there's no questions, or a motion to approve the chamber report for recording purposes?
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion. Second, any other discussion? Other discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Pass.
All right, we can go back up to item F, budget amendments. F1's regarding the FY22 budget. Francis?
FY22 budget amendments, starting with F1A.
Is there a motion to approve F1D through F1I?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion. Second, any other discussion? No other discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pass.
Under item G, bids, RFPs, RFQs. G1 is authorization of recommendations. G1A regarding bid 22-004, aggregate surface treatment for delivery and pickup.
All right, what's the pleasure on items G1A?
Motion to approve the purchasing director's recommendations on the bids.
Second. We have a motion. Second, any other discussion? No other discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pass. All right.
All right, item G1B regarding bid 22-005, asphalt emulsions for delivery and pickup.
Not what's the pleasure, of court?
Move to approve the recommendation of the purchasing director.
All right. Is there a second? Second. All right. We have a motion. Second, any other discussion? No other discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Pass. I'd like to go to item L1. We have Shane Turner and Fiona Bond here. It's regarding the U.S. Department of Treasury Coronavirus Local Physical Recovery Fund American Rescue Plan Act, discussion or action regarding the eligible expenses and our funding guidelines, reporting requirements, and funding request.
So I'm Fiona Bond, Executive Director of Creative Waco, and of course this is Shane Turner, owner and operator of the Hippodrome.
All right, so we will recess until 1 o'clock tomorrow. So it's 11. All right, good morning. Let's call court to order. Today is Tuesday, March 1st, 2022. It's 9 a.m. Proof of posting, please.
The agenda was posted on Friday, February 25th, 2022 at 3:10 p.m.
Thank you. And if anyone has a public comment, they can come forward now from the audience. Yes, sir.
My name is Shannon Caraway. I'm Vice President for Business Development for a company called Solar Prime. Currently, we're trying to develop another 300 megawatt solar farm and 300 megawatt battery energy storage project here in McLennan County. And it's out north of Trading House Creek Reservoir, that area there. We're preparing to submit a proposal to this body soon for a county tax abatement for the project, and just wanted to stop by ahead of time, introduce ourselves, and tell you what we're doing.
Going to D on Today is Tuesday, August the 9th, 2022. It's 9 a.m. Proof of posting, please.
The agenda was posted on Thursday, August 4th, 2022 at 4 p.m.
Thank you. Let's stand briefly for a moment of silence, and then we'll have a pledge to the flag.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the Texas pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, if there's any members of the audience that would like to come forward and speak to the court on matters pertaining to the court, please do so at this time.
Judge, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we don't have sound from the courtroom.
Okay. Testing 1, 2, 3. Can you hear? I think it's just the sound. Inside the courtroom is good, but out to the.
Just a moment, sir. Sorry, someone, Williams on my computer.
Do you want comments now, Judge, or like?
I'd like to record them, so.
Oh, okay, they're not ready.
Yeah, but you can come forward, and if you would, sit right here when we're ready. I know who you are.
Okay.
Introduce yourself and your
Sure, okay.
address, and then,
Okay. And last week, I think they had me down. It's Ogden, Ogden. I think they had me as Alden or something, but
Oh.
that's okay. A lot of y'all have heard me before, and so, good morning again. I'm Alice Ogden. My husband's Greg Ogden. Are
Alice-
you ready?
no,
Wait, okay.
are we ready? Okay,
Okay.
we are ready. Go
Okay,
ahead.
I'm Alice Ogden, and my husband, Greg Ogden, and I addressed y'all last week. I don't want to, go through the whole speech, but since we did have some members not present, I just wanted to kind of touch on the highlights of, we just wanted to voice our total support of any additional funding necessary to complete the 2019 zoo bond that passed over 60% back in 2019. We voted in favor of the entire package that would include the veterinary and education complex and the new penguin exhibit. And the price tag of the bond really did not have any effect on our vote at all. So the Zoological Society has been very diligent in their fundraising for additional cost. In June, over 200 Waco McLennan County supporters indicated their continued enthusiasm of the zoo bond by raising over $320,000 at Penguin Palooza. And it also celebrated the substantial and generous gift by Gloria Young that honored her late husband, or is honoring her late husband, FM, toward the future Penguin Shores. So we would just like to see the entire project, Vet Ed, building along with the penguin exhibit done at the same time. And it's crucial that the vet facility be completed to accommodate the critically endangered species of penguins and the other endangered animals at the zoo. So we're just asking for your support to please vote yes and fund all of the shortfall of the 2019 bond monies to provide an outstanding product that our McLennan County residents have been anticipating and that will last for many years. So thanks for your time.
Thank you, Alice. Okay, anyone else? Okay, thank you. All right, I'd like to go to item F1. This is a presentation of election voting equipment. So Dustin, if you'll make the introduction?
Yes, sir. So Judge Jarrett has invited both Hart InterCivic and Election Systems and Software (ES&S) to give a presentation on their voting equipment this morning. So, Jared, would you like to do a quick intro?
Thank you, Dustin. Thank you, commissioners. So yes, we do have two vendors here for your consideration for the new voting equipment. We have Election Systems and Software, which is ES&S. We also have Hart InterCivic. The two companies are going to be showing off a hand-marked ballot system. The reason we are looking at hand-marked ballots is, well, there's a couple of reasons. First, in 2026, there is a new law that states that all counties must use a paper-based voting system when voting. The other reason, of course, is our current equipment. We've been using it for 15-plus years, and it is going to be time for us to replace it in the near future. The current equipment does still work just fine. It is still certified, but it is time to start considering something new. The reason I'm looking at a hand-marked paper-based system is because I believe it's going to be the easiest system for our voters. I think the voters are going to find it easy to learn and to implement when they go to vote. I also think it's going to be the easiest system for our poll workers to implement when it comes time for them to learn and actually put the system out to use in the polling places. And I think that's going to help the voters be more confident when they go to cast their ballot. And I also believe it's going to be the best system to meet the county's needs logistically. So while they're going to be focusing on showing the hand-marked ballot system, they will also be showing how these systems meet ADA compliance. So the first company we're going to be seeing is going to be ES&S. They're going to show their system off. And if y'all have any questions, please let me know. Okay?
All right. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Do I need to give him a microphone?
At least put your, introduce yourself and let walk around.
I'm Chris Moody. Whoa.
Yeah.
That's a little loud.
Good.
Chris Moody with Election Systems and Software. Jared said we had like 2 hours each to get through the demonstration. Maybe not.
Yeah, Jared needs to visit with us again.
Well, luckily you only have 2 of us to sit through. In some states, it's 6 or 7 different vendors to sit through. So I'm going to go through, give you a little bit of information about our company. I'll walk through our solution that is being proposed for McLennan County. And then open it up to any questions. It should be a pretty quick demo. And feel free to jump in during the demonstration if you think of something you want to ask. We're Election Systems and Software. We're based out of, our corporate headquarters is based out of Omaha, Nebraska. We have satellite offices around the country and states where we have a lot of business. And in Texas, our local office is in Richardson, Texas. In that office, that's where we do all the supplies, support, repairs, anything customer facing or directly involving the counties here in Texas. Throughout the state, we have field technicians located strategically around the state on call all the time in case they need to be dispatched out to counties for repairs or troubleshooting or anything like that. And then I'm located up in Prosper, Texas. I work out of my home there. We're in 41 different states around the nation. Here in Texas, we're in 140 counties. It's actually 141 now. We just got Jefferson County, so the map that's inside your booklet there is inaccurate as of last week. Jefferson County switched over to us about a week and a half ago. And then recently, Panola County, yesterday, they just signed their contract for a new voting system. That was already our county, so they were just upgrading to this newer system. So I'm going to walk through this. It's a ballot on demand system. And I think what I'm going to do is start with the voter check-in part. The check-in laptop that the county's using today is not going to change. So voters are still going to come up to the check-in table, check in on the existing county's laptop, which is the poll book software. We will connect our printer to that laptop. So once the voter has completed their check-in, it will automatically send a ballot print job over to the printer for that voter. Obviously, in the poll book software, there's a ballot style and precinct assigned to that voter, so that's how the printer knows exactly what ballot to print for that voter. Once it prints out, you'll see it's traditional hand-marked paper ballot. The voter would take that over to a voting booth somewhere in the polling location. Let me get my pen out. On the printer, the difference between these are off-the-shelf printers. You can buy Brother printers just about anywhere that sells printers. The difference are these are specially designed for our company to sell to our customers. The communication ports are all disabled. So you know, laser printers today, you can connect to them wirelessly via Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. So we've disabled the communication functions on these printers and only kept one port enabled for the communication between the laptop and the printer. So it's just an extra security measure that we put in place on the printers. Once the voter has filled out their ballot, they're going to, before they leave the polling location, deposit it in the precinct scanner. This is our precinct scanner. It's a DS200. The scanner is once the ballot is fed into it, it's going to take a digital picture of the front and the back. It's going to drop the ballot in the bin below, the locked ballot box below. It stores the results on the thumb drive as well as the images for the ballot. And we have images there just in case something would ever happen to the physical ballots. You still have an exact image of how that ballot was voted. This ballot box is on 4 turning caster wheels. I think they're 2 or 2.5 inch wheels. They roll pretty well over seams in the pavement, door jams. Don't give it too much of a problem. I'm going to go ahead and read my ballot in here before I open the bottom. So in about 3 seconds, it takes to tabulate that ballot, take the pictures of the ballot, and tell the voter, thank you for voting. The voter can walk away. In the bottom.
Does the voter themselves actually put it in the scanner?
Yes, sir.
Or they maintain control of the document?
Yep, they put it in the scanner. A lot of our counties, they may have a poll worker that stands close to the machine just in case there's assistance needed. And a voter can put their ballot in upside down if they want a little bit more privacy. Or they can carry it in a secrecy sleeve over there if they're worried about a poll worker or anyone looking at how they voted. In the bottom of the ballot box, we have what we call a tote bin. This is where all the ballots are falling into. Either side of the tote bin can be locked and seals put on it. There's a luggage handle on one end, because after you get about 3,000 ballots in here, this will get pretty heavy for a poll worker or whoever's transporting these after the election's over. And then there's wheels on the opposite end, so it's kind of like luggage. Here we have an auxiliary bin. A lot of our counties use this for their provisional ballots because the provisional ballots can't be tabulated at the time they were voted. They have to be brought back in to be verified with the election staff, whether they should be read or not. So a lot of them put their provisional ballots in here so that they stay in the same locked ballot box that the regular ballots are in. It's also in case of an emergency, if something were to happen to the scanner, ballots could be fed into here while the scanner's being waited, or while you're waiting on the scanner to be replaced or repaired. But that way it keeps the ballots that weren't read separate from the ballots that were read. It runs on lithium-ion batteries, so if you lose power in the polling location, you'll get 4 to 5 hours of run time before it needs to be recharged. I think that's it for that. So the other thing that the polling location's required to have is an ADA device, a voting machine where a visually impaired person or a handicapped person can vote on. And using the same process with the existing laptops that the county has for checking voters in, this ballot starts out as blank. This is going to be the ballot for the express vote, but we still have to tell this ballot what precinct and ballot style number that voter is voting on. So once the voter's checked in on the laptop, it too, just like the ballot on demand printer for the full face ballot, will put the precinct ballot style number up here. So when the voter goes over to this machine and feeds it in, this machine's now going to know what ballot to present to that voter. This is also running off the same lithium-ion battery, so you'll get 4 to 5 hours runtime on it if you lose power in the polling location. Once the ballot's inserted, the voter will have a language selection choice to make, voter instructions, and then they have the offices and candidates they can choose from here. We most recently went to a screen that allows the county to design the screen how they want. So they can have 2 columns of offices on it, 3 columns of offices, or up to 4 columns of offices on it, instead of just 1 office per page, which would eliminate the number of times a voter is going to have to go to the next page to see another office. So in elections where you may have 40 offices on the ballot, you're only going to have maybe 3 or 4 screens to look at versus 40 screens to look at. Once they're done, they see the review screen, verify their ballot, and then they can print it. This machine's not going to store any vote totals. All it's doing is putting the selections that were made electronically onto the piece of paper. So the selections are on, and now this piece of paper has to be tabulated just like the other ballots did. And the voter can bring it over, read it upside down, backwards, however they want to. So that's kind of the process that a voter would go through to vote in the polling location. There's a few things that I think that we do a little better than other vendors around the country in this process. One is the direct print from the poll book to the printers. There's no need for any equipment in between the poll book and the printer to actually perform that print function. And then the other one is our equipment's not relying on connectivity between each other, running cables from one machine to the other to stay connected. I think that's about it. Is there any questions?
Okay, any questions?
You said you had technical support throughout the state.
That's correct.
If an issue can't be resolved remotely, about what do y'all try to keep down as a response time as far as a physical person being here to resolve an issue?
Within the day.
Within a day?
We have 4 people that are located pretty close to Waco, one in Corsicana, one in southern Dallas, one over in the Granbury area. So we would try to get them, if it can't be resolved over the phone, we try to get someone out that same day.
But you would have more than one setup in each voting poll, right?
You're talking about the...
Yeah, if you had a problem.
So my plan is that in every polling location, in every line that we set up, it's like check-in line, we would have at least one ADA compliant device. I'm trying to stay away from having more than one per line, just to keep it simple. And that's why I'm focusing on the hand-marked ballots, is because I think that's the simplest approach for our voters.
There is one other piece of equipment I did want to talk to. I don't have it here today. It's the central count scanning machine. This is the machine that will be used in the back office of the elections office for scanning your absentee ballots. It's a high-speed scanner, but it does a little bit more than just count ballots. Once you move to this type of a election configuration, you're now subject to the state's partial manual recount, which means the state will tell Jared's office, we want you to count the governor's race in these 3 precincts, or however many precincts it ends up being. But because you're a vote center county, there's going to be ballots from all precincts in all of your vote centers. So this machine's also a high-speed sorter. Counties are able to put their ballots in there from the vote centers, tell it which precincts they want to sort out, and it'll do that sort for them without people being involved. A team of people thumbing through the ballots. It's a more accurate way of finding the ballots that need to be recounted.
Side note, we already use partial manual recount with our ballot by mail ballots. So those are paper ballots.
You said you were in how many counties again?
140, well, it's 141 now because Jefferson just got added to the list. Not that list. I didn't have a chance to reprint those, but
Okay, I see your map. Is there any way we can get a list?
yes, absolutely.
A list and the contact, and maybe someone to contact there?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay,
I can have that to you before noon today.
okay, appreciate it.
Other questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So they're gonna switch out. It's gonna take a few minutes to switch systems. I don't know if there was something that maybe y'all wanted to cover between now and then. It may take about 5 to 10 minutes.
So Jared, you're saying that central accounting piece is not something we need?
I'm sorry, say again?
So you're saying that central accounting piece
We
is
do
not
need.
something?
Oh, yeah, there would be a central accounting piece needed, yes.
A new one.
Yes, a new one, yes, because it would be proprietary to their system,
Okay.
yes. Do y'all have any other questions for me while they switch out?
You know, in regard, we can go ahead and talk about one thing.
Sure.
You know, we initially talked about doing it in the 2022 budget,
Correct.
but after more thought about it, and this is these assets last a good while, we think it would be appropriate to put it on bonds. Francis, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So if we do that, then our time frame to get these things ordered and get them in place has changed a little bit. In other words, it's extended it out.
Correct.
So what would be your recommendation on the time frame that we order these and we get them actually delivered?
So I would like them delivered once we finish processing everything for this November election on our current voting system. That typically takes about a month or so to back up all of the equipment and clean it all off. So, and then that'll give Hart, whoever it is, time to come in and collect the current equipment because they are going to destroy that equipment. And then we can take in the new voting system after that our current system has been removed from the premise.
So the vendor takes control of the old equipment.
Right.
And is responsible for it.
Right, yes.
And so then they take it appropriately, decommission it.
Exactly, yeah. What Hart has told me is that they will give me a certificate that it has been properly disposed of.
So it will be Hart and not necessarily, it won't be the vendor we choose. It will be the vendor who
Right.
currently has that machine.
Right, right. And that may be a question you have for Hart as far as like the details on how they do that. So, go ahead.
So would we need a extra storage? So we're not gonna have two systems at the same.
Exactly.
Taking up space at the same time.
Exactly. So that's what I would prefer. I know we had talked about
makes sense,
finding
yeah.
storage, but I don't think that's gonna be necessary
Okay.
since
That's-
we'll be able to take it in a little bit later, which is nice. So.
Jared, do they bill us or invoice us, and we may not know this yet, if the equipment is ours, but they're housing it for us until it can be delivered? Do we pay them like we took possession then, or will we actually take possession of it here on county?
To be honest with you, I'm not certain.
Okay.
Let's ask the
Okay.
vendors. They'll be able to
Okay.
tell us, give us details on that.
And both of the systems that you're bringing before us, they're paper only?
Right. So, once again, law 2026, we have to have a paper trail on our
Right.
voting system. Both vendors, their systems are a similar concept, so.
But I would say that they're not paper only, they're, because once you get the paper's where it originates.
Right.
And then it goes in and it's scanned into electronic.
That's correct.
And
Exactly.
so we actually have both. I
Exactly.
mean, we've got the electronic version and the paper version.
Exactly.
So
That's
that
exactly right.
should, years ago, we were paper.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted electronic.
Yeah.
So we switched to electronic, then everybody wanted paper.
Yeah.
And so, to me, this looks like, with either one of these vendors, that ought to get us covered for that.
Exactly, and we should still be able to get our results out in a timely
Right.
manner as we currently do. In fact, it's really not reinventing the wheel, which is what I like. So our current central count processes on election night are going to be very similar to when we move to the new system, as far as how everything's brought back, how everything is verified. You know, the seals will be verified by a team that we have right now. So none of that's going to change. It's just the physical piece of equipment that we're actually verifying and processing through is what's going
Do
to
you
change.
see anything in the newer equipment that would slow down or speed up getting the results of an election out?
I don't see, my estimate, and from what I've talked about with other counties, is we have talked to other counties that have systems, and I don't think it's going to change the timeline. So actually, one thing that will speed up, so our current system that we have to print out what's called a tally tape at the end of the night.
Right.
And on our current system, you can't do just a summary tally tape. It has to print every single precinct, every single contest, every single candidate, and that takes, at least an hour. It's probably going to take about an hour to an hour and a half on election night coming November, kind of similar to what we saw in the March election.
Right.
So that's a long process. These new systems, they do a summary, so it does not take as long to print that report, which is nice.
I want to go back to that question. The reason I asked, that is correct as far as we have some people who want just to be able to vote by paper.
Mm-hmm.
And they think that is more reliable. And then we have some people in the community who prefer the machine.
Sure.
As recent as yesterday's paper. So we're starting to get interest in the community to the point that people are writing letters to the editor.
I saw that, yes.
So when I make a decision, I just want to be able to stand on it with people who might ask me questions.
Right.
And so that's why I'm asking you.
Sure.
Because I know your preference is paper only.
Yes.
And like the letter yesterday, and they may not be aware of the fact that, of the audible, the paper
Right.
audit trail.
Right.
But the sentiment was, why are we changing?
Right.
Everything is working okay.
Right.
It's easier with the
Yes.
machine. So I just want to hear from you why you're not doing hybrid. I understand the machine component as far as maintaining the information
Right,
and
right.
being able to use it post-election. But why are you standing behind a system that is paper only?
Sure.
I
Well,
just
first of all, the
didn't hear
law
that.
changed, and that I did see the letter.
Okay,
so-
but that's the
and that
audit
did.
trail. That's the
Yeah.
audit trail. I'm talking
Right.
about the implementation of the vote actually at the machine.
Right. Well, and it's interesting because that letter is the first complaint I've had about getting away from electronic equipment. The great majority of people, that are complaining about our voting system is the fact that it is an electronic system and that there is not that paper element. And when we go to cast that ballot, or when the voter goes to cast that ballot, that physical ballot that they've actually marked, that is there as a backup, and we don't have that right now. And actually, I think that's far more secure than the electronic only element. So security really is top of mind here. And I think, I'll address a few things here in a little bit about the, what I think about both systems as far as that goes. But in all honesty, yeah, the paper-based system is going to be more secure, and it is still stored electronically. So, and I know they were talking about ease of use, but a lot of people, they're intimidated by the electronic machines. They see a computer and they think, well, am I going to be able to use this? I think most everybody knows how to use pen and paper. So,
But there's a whole generation that's grown up
Yeah.
not voting any other way than
Right.
electronically.
Right.
So it will be,
Sure, there will be a learning curve.
I mean, I
but-
grant you in class, if they marked A, B, C, or D on their
Yeah.
answer sheet on multiple choice,
Right.
then
Yeah.
they're familiar with voting by paper.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I grew up, taking tests on Scantrons.
Exactly.
And it's a similar concept. So, I think that it's just going to be easier overall for everybody to learn.
You
the
know, the
system.
bottom line is people just don't like to change, Jerry.
And I get that. Hey, you know what? I completely understand that. Change is hard. It's not fun.
That was the point.
Just as I was learning how, just as I was learning
As
how.
the judge was saying, it was paper and then it wasn't good, and then it was electronic, it wasn't good, and now it's both, and we'll still find people that don't like it.
We're not going to make everybody happy. I understand that. I know that. So,
Well, everybody
but I
knows.
want to make the most people happy that we possibly can, and I think this is the best option.
Well,
Everybody
not
knows
so much-
technology is not what it used to be.
Right.
Not so much happy. I just want to give them the most credible system. I
Right.
want us to be able to stand behind the decision that we make on the equipment.
Absolutely. Me too. And that is my goal here. I want people to feel confident when I cast my ballot, my vote's going to be counted as I intended. That's the most important thing to me. And
I
that's-
want it counted and I want it reported before 10 o'clock. That's my best.
That is also
Don't
my
like
goal. I
going to
can't
bed.
guarantee that's going to happen every single time, but that is my goal.
Don't like
So,
going to bed without knowing.
I get that.
It
too.
happens almost every night.
So, are y'all ready?
Yeah, we're ready.
Y'all have anything else for me before they start?
Yeah, this conversation's going bad, so we need to go.
Okay. All right.
I can take over from here.
All right.
Do you want me to use this mic right here?
Yeah, that'd be great. Good morning.
I'll try to speak quietly through it because usually I have a very loud carrying voice. Let me see if I can do this correctly. Are we good? Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for having us, first of all. My name is John Thompson. I'm with Hart InterCivic, and with me is our Vice President of Sales, also with Hart InterCivic. I'm sure y'all remember her from last year and the years before coming out here to McLennan County. So I first just want to thank y'all for being a partner and a customer over the, past, 17 years. I think it was 2005, 2006 when y'all originally purchased your current equipment. So it's been a while, and we really appreciate that partnership. I'm not going to go into a whole deep dive about Hart. Really what I want to show y'all is the equipment, how easy it is to use, not only for the poll worker, but also for the voter, and then also in the elections office. At any point, if you have any questions, that's what we're here for. You can interrupt me, ask questions. But what I'll do first is I'm going to take you kind of through what the perfect voting scenario is, which we hope 99% of our your voters go in, mark a ballot, cast it, they're good to go. But there are some that might have some issues, and I want to take you through those issues and how we handle them as well. So Felice is going to help me here, and I'm going to start right here. This is our ballot on demand device. We call it Print. Right here is our ADA device. We call that Duo. And then right here is our Scan, which will scan the ballots from both devices. So the poll worker is going to be the one using the Print device. So Felice is going to be my poll worker / voter. So a voter checks in on your current poll books, your current laptops. Once they check in, those laptops currently print out a barcode that looks just like this. It'll be the same exact process. The poll worker is going to scan that barcode. Ask the voter which language they would like, English, Spanish, bilingual. The poll worker selects the language, and then it takes them to a screen that says, yes, print ballot. Very easy, very simple. Now, while this is printing, one of the things that we did and we chose to do, and we purposely did this, is we didn't want our ballot on demand device connected to the poll books, directly connected. The reason we did not want that is because the poll books are online. And we believe that ballots in the voting system should be separate from what's online. Now, I know that there's a lot of security. I know I've spoken with Jared many times. The IT department here is extremely secure, but you just never know. And we'd rather have that air gap between the poll book and this device. The other thing that we did is that we actually took this device, and we're the only company in Texas that has done this. We took this device through federal certification. So this device right here has met all the federal requirements of all these other devices. What does that mean to you? Well, it means that they've gone to a third-party test lab. They've been tested, for security, all that good stuff. But most importantly, they've been tested like drop testing. What happens when you drop this device? Stuff like that. So really, what's really important is they're meant to last, just like your current voting system. 10 to 15 years, depending on, you know, maintenance and stuff like that, which I know Jared does a great job at maintaining the equipment. So I don't think y'all would have an issue with that. So Felice printed a ballot on demand, hand-marked paper ballot. It looks exactly like the ballots that your voters currently get in the mail. What Felice is going to do as the voter is mark that ballot. Let me give her a pen first.
Does it require special ink or?
No, we recommend blue or black pens. That's just our recommendation. Now, have we seen people use pencil? Have we seen people use Sharpie? Yes, we have. The scanner will take that. It's just you're going to have to clean the scanner more often because it's going to smudge. So we recommend that each county have pens on site for the voters to use, is our recommendation.
Which we would.
Okay, so police marked this ballot. As you can see right here, she didn't follow the instructions of bubbling the whole ballot in. She did some X's, she did some check marks, she did some scribbles. That's okay, because the device is still going to be able to pick that up. We know not every voter is going to read the entire instructions. And you have a thank you for voting. You still get that American flag that y'all get today on your devices. So what happens to that ballot? It goes into this ballot box. This ballot box would be locked and sealed. There's actually a space where you can add an additional lock if you want to. And then it goes into the ballot bag here. Now, one of the things that we got from our customers is we need a ballot bag on wheels. So, with that being said, we created a ballot bag on wheels. So it's much easier for the poll worker. It's got 4 wheels. They're a little bit rugged, so they can go over the, you know, the bumps in the parking lot and stuff like that. This ballot bag specifically, it'll zip up, and then you can do a wire lock and a seal as well. And then in storage, it actually collapses down. So for storage purposes on Jared's end, it would collapse down to about this big. So you'll have, you know, won't have to deal with a lot of storage issues when it comes to it. Another thing about our scanner is that we do have an emergency ballot bin. Like Chris said, it can be used for provisionals. It can also be used for in case the scanner goes down or something like that happens and it takes an hour to get a new scanner out there. You can put ballots that could not be scanned in there. It has a place where you can seal it, so they would have to break that seal, and it keeps it separate from the ballots that had already been scanned. So you see this little bag right here, that keeps it separate from the ballots that had already been scanned. Does that make sense?
Does that larger box, does that lock, that larger bag where the ballots come in and you actually transport from one location to the other, does that actual bag, is that locked? Or does it just zip?
No, it zips, and then there's 2 little connections that go together, and you can put a wire lock
Okay.
in them. Okay. Yeah, so you can lock it or you can seal it, either or, depending on what the county wants to do. So for our ADA voters, what we have is we have what we call Duo Standalone. It's a standalone device. None of these devices are connected to each other. So they're all standalone. There's no connection. So if this goes down, this is still going to work, and this is still going to work, or vice versa. Completely different than what you've seen or what you saw last year. So I'm going to bring up a ballot here for Felice. Same thing, you can scan this barcode to bring up the ballot. And then from here, Felice, the voter, is going to go here to get started. Oh, you got it. I'm too tall and I'll get in the way and you can't see anything. So what happens, is that once the ballot's inserted, it's going to give you a check mark saying the ballot's inserted correctly. We put on our ballots an arrow just to help out, with the voter to make sure it goes in correctly. There's also a notch right here for blind voters to kind of feel around and make sure that they can get it in there correctly. There's a couple other things that we have on here. We have Braille. These right here are raised just so it makes it easier for that voter to figure out where to put the ballot. But once the ballot's inserted correctly, the ADA device is going to give that voter two options here. One is going to be, yes, help me change the settings. So essentially what that does is it's going to take them through all the different settings that they might need to, use that machine. So stuff like English, Spanish, contrast, volume if they're listening to the ballot, things like that. It'll take them through those settings so they can preset it before they start voting, or they can just go no, skip straight to voting, and it's going to bring up your about ballot screen. Now, from here, and at any point in voting, they can change all these settings. So if they want to raise the audio, if they are using headphones to listen to the ballot, they can increase the audio. If they need to change the language, they can change the language. So they can do that throughout the whole process. Once they're done voting, or once the ballot is printed, all those settings default back to the regular settings. So no poll worker has to come over and change anything or anything like that. But Felice is going to go through the ballot here. You'll have your contest at the top and your candidates at the bottom. We did one contest per page. One of the reasons that we did that is we got feedback from a lot of our counties about down ballot races being skipped when you have multiple contests per page. And also we got some feedback from our counties that it can get confusing when you have 4 or 5 contests per page. So what we decided to do is just do one per page and go through the ballot. Once she's done, it'll give her summary screen. At this point, it'll show all the contests she selected, and then if she wants to make changes, she can select that contest, make the change, go back to summary, and she's good to go. So from here, she'll go to print ballot. It's going to ask her, yes, you want to print your ballot. She does want to print her ballot.
And one point I wanted to bring up for you, Commissioner, you talked earlier to Jared about some voters may not want to go to on paper. Able-bodied voters can vote on this device too. It does not have to be just the disabled community. So if you do have voters who are more apt to do electronic voting, they can use the touchscreen to vote and then still have that paper record that is so important for others in the community.
And that is something that we would do during our training, is making sure the poll workers understand. If a voter wants to go vote on the touchscreen, they're more than welcome to do so.
And just another thing that we have here, we have that same wheel and select button that's on your current machines. We just put a little wire on it so it can go in somebody's lap. It comes with headphones they can plug in, and there's another area where you can plug in, personal devices like Sip and Puff and stuff like that. But I imagine, 1% of your voters might need to use this device, so most of our counties will have one per polling location.
Once again, if we have 2 lines, that was going to have 1 per line, so we would have 2 set up, like at First Assembly, for example.
So they're going to take their ballot. You can see the selections, the contests and the selections they made. It also says no selection if they made no selection. This QR code, all that is it's telling the scanner that this is a valid ballot. So for example, we call it a unique identifier. If somebody were to take this out of the polling place and go try to make copies, it wouldn't be able to scan. So it only scans once. Once it's scanned, it cannot be scanned again. Another thing about our scanner is that there's only 1 slot for both types of ballots. So there's not 2 different slots. There's no voter confusion on that. There's 1 area for both types of ballots. Get that same flag. Thank you. Vote's been recorded. Goes down in here. Let me, unless I'm forgetting anything over here, Felice.
The collapsible ballot box.
Yes.
You haven't talked about that.
Yeah. So let me just show some differentiators, because at the end of the day, ES&S, us, we scan a ballot, right? We all scan a ballot at the end of the day. We do things a little bit differently than they do. So there's a couple things that we do differently. One is this ballot box is collapsible. It collapses to about 6 inches thin. So in storage, it's a lot easier to store. And then in transportation, it's a lot easier to transport. Now, opening the ballot box, there's instructions on the back. I personally have never read them. It's pretty easy to open and get it going. The devices themselves, they are all look the same. The reason that we did that is because training poll workers can sometimes be hard. And so we wanted all of our devices to look exactly the same, so they have the same buttons in the back. They have the same power on button. They have the same interface on the screen. So when you're training a poll worker on how to set something up, you can really train them on one device and they'll know how to set up the other devices. So that's something that we did specifically. That's a differentiator. Another thing that we did, and I think is extremely important, is provisional. So you are going to have provisional voters. What we did on the print device there, the poll worker, there's a place where they can mark that voter as provisional. We wrote provisional on the ballot. So our scanner will not accidentally take that ballot. We're the only company in Texas that has that process automated. Because what will happen, you've got a very busy polling place with 30 people in there voting, something like that. You've got maybe 2 provisional voters. It's up to the poll worker to keep an eye on them. And as you know, it's a busy day. Election day is a busy day. They might lose them during the process. If that voter comes over and tries to scan that provisional ballot, it will not let it scan. If it did let it scan, then you've got a provisional vote that you can never take back. It's been counted. There's no way, you can go down there and try to find it, but there's no way to go in there and take it back. Another thing that we did, and I'll show you this right here, and this is unique to Hart. We're the only company in Texas that does this, is unique identifiers. So each one of our ballots has a unique identifier on it. You can barely see it right there, but essentially every ballot that is printed is uniquely its own ballot. So if somebody, and I haven't seen this happen, but you never know, if somebody were to get into this ballot box, take out these ballots that had already been scanned and try to scan them back through or scan specific ones back through, our scanner is going to recognize that that ballot had already been scanned, and it's going to send it back out. We're the only company in Texas that has that capability. And I think that's extremely important, especially nowadays. You know, voter integrity and having your voters feel comfortable with the voting system is really, really important. And having that capability is really important. Felice, am I missing anything?
Did you want to talk about the manufacturing facility?
Oh, yeah. So I was just going to leave you with these 3 or 4 things. So, and then I'll let you have your time back. One is that this voting system right here is designed, developed, and manufactured 90 miles down the road. So we're right down the road. Commissioner, I think you had a question about response times. We've got about 100 employees down the road, so response times are pretty quick. If you need something, we're going to be here. So everything is designed, developed, manufactured right down the road, right outside of Austin. We're actually, I think, technically in Williamson County, but we're right there, and it's really important. The other one, I'm going to my notes here just to make sure I don't miss anything. Print, it's EAC and federally certified. That's important because of what I said earlier. So I want to leave that with y'all. It's not connected to the internet. It's not connected to a poll book that's connected to the internet. Your ballots are not online. The other thing is that none of our devices here can ever be connected to the internet. Not just the devices, but the back-end system that Jared uses to build ballots and tabulate votes. And then, you know, I read this 1,000 times before I did this, but then completely forgot. Last thing is unique IDs. Every single one of our ballots is going to have a unique identifier on it. That way, it can't be scanned more than once, and also someone can't go make copies of it and try to stuff a ballot box.
Okay, end of day, end of voting period, polls closed, ready to count. What are they counting? Are they counting off of a thumb drive? Or are they counting off of a ticker tape somewhere? I mean,
so there's a couple different things here, and some of this will be up to the county, but under lock and key right here, and also a seal is a thumb drive. It's proprietary. We call it a V drive. That's what would go back to the county to tabulate votes.
what do they have there? What does it plug into?
There's a workstation that is offline that it plugs into, and then as soon as it plugs into that, it starts tabulating votes and you start getting reports. That right there is a 30-second process.
And that's part of something that we will, if we purchase your system, that's something that we purchase from y'all.
Yes, that's all.
And,
Yes.
and that's at central office.
Yes, that's all. Everything that the county needs to run elections is in the quote provided in the contract. There's no hidden fees or anything like that. It's all in there. Jared shouldn't have to come back to me 3 months later and ask me for stuff. If he does, I'll come down here and apologize to every single one of y'all. But we've gone over the quote to make sure that we have everything in there. But essentially, at the end of the night, the poll worker is going to close polls on this device. They're going to shut it off. They're going to take this tablet, put it in this space. They're going to close this tablet. They can lock it right here. And then also they can put a seal around the handle. So it essentially looks like a suitcase. And then they're also going to take out the ballots, zip it up, seal it, or put a wire lock around it. And these two are what is going to come back to the elections office at the end of the night. And then once it comes to the elections office, Jared and his office will break that seal, unlock it, they'll pull out that V drive, put it into the tabulation workstation, and then that's when you start getting results. One thing I will point out is that our ballots are stored in 3 separate places. They're stored on that V drive right there. We're the only company that actually stores it on the hard drive of the device itself. So if something were to happen to that V drive, you can extract the votes from the hard drive. And then plus you have your actual physical paper ballots. And there is another port in here. If Jared wanted to, he could put another V drive in there and have it stored on both of them. So really, you could have 4 separate places where your ballots are stored just for redundancy.
All right, then that raises the question. Let's suppose that you have 2, you say V or B?
V.
V is in very, okay. You have 2 V drives.
Mm-hmm.
You take them out, it won't let you plug both of them in and count.
No.
In other words, once you count off one of the V drives, the machine recognizes it and it won't let you count again.
Yes,
Okay.
they have a unique identifier within them. So let's say, I doubt this would happen, but Jared finds one laying around and is like, was this tabulated or not? Plugs it in, it'll let him know it's already been tabulated.
So there's a couple of points that I'd like to add to that, John. you ask if there was a ticker tape. Actually, there is the ability to print a tally report off of this device when the polls close. It would be just for that device, though, so it wouldn't be an amalgamation of every single voting location. It would be just this one.
A total of how many votes took place on that machine?
Correct. So you have the ticker tape, like you said, and you also have the electronic, like John mentioned. Also, the workstations that come with our systems, those are all single-purpose workstations also. So we have stripped everything off of those workstations except the applications needed to run the software that Jared and his staff need. So it's not like you could walk into his office and hop on that workstation and start surfing the web. Not able to do that. It's almost like when you go to an ATM and that ATM is just an ATM. Even though it's a computer, you can't do anything else except the ATM manifestations that you need to. Same thing with the workstations that come with our system.
And trust me, I've tried to play solitaire on them before, can't do it. Any other questions for us?
Any questions?
How many counties do you all operate in?
254 minus whatever Chris said. We basically have about half the state between ES&S and Hart.
Okay.
And about probably half registered voters and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the counties that he does not have, those are the counties that you do have?
Yes, ma'am.
And then using this system specifically, just so y'all are aware, we have about 4,000 of these print devices deployed in Texas alone, about 20,000 nationwide. Hill County, your neighbor next door, they've been using this system for, I guess, maybe 2 years now. And Denton County has been using this system for 5 years, just about 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I always recommend any of our counties that are going to this to reach out to Denton County because they've been using it for so long. They have all the processes and procedures in place.
They've been using that system?
Yeah,
Audit
and
trail?
what John means by that system is this configuration.
This configuration.
Which means the print device, the ADA device, and then the scan. We have other configurations like all electronic and a different type of print device that's also electronic. So when John says this system, it's this exact same setup that you see here.
Can we get a list of those counties?
Yes.
Yeah, so on the back of your handout there, it's got your 10 things.
Okay.
There's a map and it shows all the counties, but I can definitely get you a list of all of them.
Because you said nationwide too, so you got more than just.
Oh, yeah.
Equipment in
We're
Texas.
across the nation.
Okay. And so you'll put that together and get that to us?
Yes, definitely. I can put that together and give that to y'all.
Okay.
Commissioner Miller, we've actually visited Denton County to see this system.
Okay.
And asked them extensive questions, so, to get an idea of what they thought about it.
You can share that with me through an
I'll share
email?
it before here shortly, okay?
Okay.
Sure.
Okay, hang on, Mary. All right, if y'all will hang tight there just a second, I've got a question for Jared, if you'll come up.
Yes. I'll go up there.
Jared, I know several entities and individuals looked at this system, and
Correct.
Mary Mann is here,
Correct.
representing the Democratic Party. What were the comments? Did you get any written response to any?
I didn't get any written, but I talked to a lot of people. And I know Michelle with our office here as well, talked to a lot of people.
Okay.
And overall, I think everybody felt like it was the smart move, that they liked both systems overall. There's some nuanced differences, of course, between the two. However, most people, I believe, favored the Hart system.
Well, I requested written. I'm disappointed we didn't get any.
Okay.
Because I'd like to make historical documentation.
Sure.
Of who all supported it.
Sure.
When we go 5 years from now and everybody said, who in the heck made that decision?
Sure.
We don't, we try to be smart and understand this stuff best we can, but we also depend on our community to.
Understood. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
All right, Mary, did you have a question?
I wanted to ask.
And you'd need to be recorded, so you'd have to come forward. Name, address, you have the drill, you know the drill.
I'm Mary Mann, and I live at 518 Redgate Road, Mart, 76664. As an election judge, several years in a row, one of the things that I have a concern about, and I know several people who observed the demonstration before, curbside voting. When, as Jared explained it to us, it simplifies in many ways the process. But I wanted to ask both representatives on curbside voting, what are the guarantees for security? Because as I understand it, all I have to do as an election judge, identify the voter at curbside, go back and print off their ballot and take it out on a clipboard to that voter and let them fill it out. Then I and another poll worker takes their ballot back to the printer. So what guarantees can I give that voter that their ballot is secure? That's my concern.
All right, thank you. All right. You like to be the first responder?
Sure. I think the answer to that question is, the ballot has to be carried back into the polling location and fed in with the poll worker. The ballot can be put in a secrecy envelope, but at the end of the day, checks and balances have to be made between the tabulation device and the poll book device to make sure that the number of check-ins equals the number of ballots counted, and that's really the where the warm fuzzies will come in as far as was the ballot counted or not.
Okay, thank you.
Since that voter can't come in and actually put the ballot in themselves, that's really the only
Okay.
way.
Thank you.
Well, essentially, Chris answered the question for me. It is really about checks and balances when it comes to paper and curbside. Unfortunately, because of the laws, you can no longer take, like you do now, a tablet out, let the vote be cast in the car. And that's, that's more processes, procedures, like Chris said, making sure that your counts are up to date. Every county I work with, I say, you should look at those counts every hour and consolidate those, what's been scanned, what's been printed, and make sure that, there's no discrepancy. But privacy sleeves, I know a lot of some curbside voters will have somebody with them. They can sign an affidavit, I believe, and go scan the ballot for them. But there's really no perfect way.
Okay, so Jared, explain what y'all do in regards to training poll workers and those
Can I ask a
folks
quick
around.
question?
Yeah.
Sure.
So the disabled unit, this is for both vendors, the disabled unit cannot go out to a curbside voter?
Y'all want to go ahead and answer that? I'll let you answer that. Here.
I don't think you heard the question.
On the disabled, on the units that you use for disabled voters, those cannot go out to the.
They can. They can be carried out to the car. And most of the counties that we have in Texas, they're carrying our express vote out to the car, or they're putting it on a cart that gets rolled out to the car. But they can be unplugged and moved out to be voted on.
Okay.
Same with ours. Most of our counties can put it on a cart and roll it out. I will tell you that a lot of our hand-marked paper counties, 100% of them just send the paper ballot out. But if they do need this, they can put that on a cart and send it out.
So what I'm considering doing is having like a privacy folder that goes out with the ballot to the voter.
Who takes it out?
So our poll workers will take it out.
One
So
or two?
I was going to recommend 2. And that's the way we do right now, actually, with our current system. So that's not going to change. Now, we're going to give the voter an option. If the voter has somebody in the car with them and they want to go deposit the ballot for the voter, that is certainly an option. The other would be, go back into that privacy vote folder, and then the 2 poll workers will bring it back inside and scan it for the voter.
Okay.
You're saying we do that now, but Now they vote on the machine, don't they?
Right, exactly, yes. So, but, you know, during training, I try to tell our voters, as much as you, or excuse me, our poll workers, as much as you can, if you are going to be helping a voter, have somebody else there with you, another poll worker. I think it's best to have 2 poll workers. That's not always possible, but as much as they can.
Right. Okay. Any other questions anyone would have? All right. Thank you. All right, in regards to where we go from here, let's open discussion up for that. We know how we're gonna pay for it. And we know that the time frame is not as urgent as it was.
Right.
And the only thing that, and I received some verbal comments, but I really would like to see some written recommendations back.
I can do that for you. No. I'd have a list of who attended, because I had everybody sign in, so.
Right. I would invite them to, if y'all think it's okay, to go ahead and write out what their
Sure.
recommendation is. Where
Sure.
we can, we'll file it.
Sure.
It'll be bookmarked.
Yeah.
And then we've got that for historical reference.
You know, I had a survey that I did last year when we did this, and I had an okay response, and that's why I didn't go that route this time. I was just trying to get actual responses and talking to the people while we were there, while it was fresh on their mind.
Right.
So.
Okay.
I have one other
Yes,
question. So I
Francis.
can see the cost of, you know, the equipment and getting everything set up, but the ongoing either maintenance or license fees, how those differ from what we are paying now? What will be the ongoing cost for the? Because those will be in the general fund. Going
Sure. So like, you know, as far as the actual yearly cost, as far as like software licensing and support, it's gonna be similar to what we have now. I do believe it is a little bit more. The biggest increase is gonna be in like expendable pieces of media, such as paper. Because, you know, we are gonna need paper for the actual physical ballots, and toner for the printers. So, you know, that's the 2 biggest items that are gonna be needed to, you know, be rebudgeted whenever it comes time. And of course, it depends on the year as well. So like a year like this year, an even numbered year where we have primaries and we have a big general election, whether it be the presidential or the, you know, governor election, that's going to need to be increased for that year because we're going to be using more of those items. For an odd numbered year, kind of like next year where we have city and school elections in May, and then, you know, the general election in November, there's not going to be as high of a voter turnout, and we're just not going to need as much, you know, material.
Okay. Well, I think probably, first of all, the presentations were great. Y'all did a very good job. Both organizations have very good and very similar equipment. Great reputations, and both are used by a lot of the counties in our state. And I've already heard back from people that one uses one type and another, that both are very satisfied with that equipment. And so at this time, I'd like to make a motion that we defer item F1 and F2 and F2A and F2B.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Other discussion, call for a vote.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Miller?
Aye.
Jeff Dalton?
Aye.
Commissioner Jones?
Aye.
Commissioner Perry?
Aye.
Pass.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Let's take a 10-minute recess. I'm ready. Is it recording?
Recording in progress.
All right, let's call court back into order, in session. All right. I think what we want to do here is go into, under item F3-2 regarding the McLennan County Emergency Service District Number 1. I know the paper wanted to cover that, but Mike has stepped out of the room, but we can fill him in if he wants to. So Dustin, if you would, give us a criteria for us to take any action on this and whether the Emergency Service District has met that criteria.
Okay, Judge. So just kind of as a quick recap, back in June, we received the petition for the creation of this Emergency Services District Number 1. The next step was to hold a public hearing. That was held on July 19th. This proposed district, it's proposed to cover the area of Elmont, Chalk Bluff, Lincoln City, and also has overlap with the ETJ of the City of Lacey Lakeview and the City of Waco. So if the court finds the creation of this district is feasible and that it will promote the public safety, welfare, health, and convenience of persons residing in the proposed district, the court shall grant the petition, fix the boundaries, impose any conditions, and then order an election. And if the court does not find that it's feasible or promotes those other factors, then the court shall deny the petition. I think the big issue with this, and Judge Mike's on, so he can add in, is that the majority of this district is in the ETJ of either the City of Lacey Lakeview or the City of Waco. And per statute, the court must make that feasibility determination if either one of those was not included in the district. And so when you take out the City of Waco, the area that's in Waco's ETJ, it leaves just a small area left for the district. And then you also have to make that determination for the City of Lacey Lakeview as well.
And
So
the
Mike, is there
reason for
anything?
that, I would assume would be that the tax revenue from those areas would cease. Therefore, you couldn't service, any bond sold, or any debt created, to purchase equipment and those kind of things. So all of a sudden, they'd have a negative, debt service coverage.
Wouldn't the,
Well, the actual reasoning is annexation. This is a little bit, it hadn't caught up to current law, but the reason for it is if the city decided to annex that property, then it would not be in need of the ESD services anymore and would not be part of the district. So that was the concern that prompted the statute that you have to look at them without the sections from the ETJs of the city. But now,
how would, but there's no forced annexation anymore. The majority of the people would have to vote on annexation. Is that correct?
That's correct, but this is an archaic statute, but it's still a statute that we have to comply with.
And so basically, if between Judge Felton and Mike's explanation, if the city of Waco's area, there would not be enough revenue for to service any bonds. But my question is does the city have to take over that debt?
Yeah, but see, we're not even getting there. The first part is you have to make a decision as to whether they could be feasible without those.
Okay.
And let me kind of go back and is Chief Perry here, by the way?
No.
Okay. He made an initial presentation that there were significant plans for, vehicles, breathing apparatuses, a lot of stuff, even paid professional firefighters. So that took a lot of revenues. And they indicated that the projected revenues would cover that. But under this statute, we have to look at whether taking out either part of the ETJ would make that infeasible. And the reality is that this whole district is located in city ETJ, either Waco or Lacey Lakeview, was what I understood the chief to say at that last meeting. And, we talked to some others, had them look at it, and it indicates that most of the district would be located in Waco's ETJ, and that would probably put, be the majority of the property tax revenue. So if you took that away, you really couldn't meet those plans that you have for it. I don't know about the ETJ of Lacey Lakeview going away. If it went away, whether it would make them not feasible. But, if the Waco ETJ was removed from the district, it would seem highly unlikely that you could meet all those plans and perform a budgets that you have.
And Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you requested them to do that calculation, and you haven't heard back.
What I did was I requested that we figure out what is, what the numbers would be. And, you know, I didn't get around to actually asking him the question you wanted me to ask him about the calculation, but what I did, you know, indicate is the statute and what it was about and whether there was some way to get around it based on his knowledge of the district's coverage and the tax base. And I didn't get anything that indicated otherwise. So, I mean, we're
Let me ask. I'm sending a quick text to Casey, just out of courtesy, to make sure that he knew that we were having a meeting today. This is an even meeting. You know, we're in an even week, and so it's not necessarily a normal meeting time for us. And then just courtesy. And then my second question is, what time frame are we up against here? I know it's soon.
Dustin, you have the answer to that.
Yes, sir. So August 22nd is the deadline to order an election for November. And I believe in conversations with Jared before that his intent was to submit the order for the election on next Tuesday's court session. So on the 16th, Jared was proposed to bring that order forward to the court calling the election.
So, so the chief needs to answer the question. In other words, it appears to us that we can't order the election because it doesn't meet the criteria.
It's not feasible.
And so, it's not feasible based on the calculations that you have to do. So what we're asking him, does he see it a different way? Because we don't want to make a decision without or the final decision without his final input.
Right.
I mean, is that right, Commissioner?
Could I ask a question, Mike?
Yeah.
Is it possible, let's say Waco were to annex that area and those property owners agreed to the annexation, what's to keep Waco from allowing that ESD to continue and still collect that 10 cents? Is there anything that says they can't do that?
I don't know, but again, we're not dealing with down the road, we're dealing with just what this is. And it is specifically aimed at, okay, if you withdraw that, if it was withdrawn from your district, it doesn't say annexed or anything else, because if it was withdrawn from your district, would you still be feasible? And I'm guesstimating why that was the case, and that would be annexation. And so it makes it kind of an archaic statute since we don't have a forced annexation. But the fact is, it's still there. In fact, I indicated to the chief that one option might be to withdraw now, get a local legislator to change that statute and try it again after that happens. But
it sounds reasonable.
I agree that we need some input from the chief. I had questions to ask him about, whether it was
he's at
whether
work
it would
right
be
now.
feasible without Waco's ETJ and that sort of stuff. So,
But it appears it wouldn't meet the criteria based on the information we know now. We don't know what the city of Waco may or may not do, and if they do annex it, what they'll negotiate or whatever, but it doesn't matter because we have to look at it, whether it would be feasible if either one or both of those ETJs turned into annexations, and it appears it won't meet the criteria. So we can't order an election, and so what we need the chief to do is tell us where he sees it differently or withdraws it himself, I guess.
And we have until next Tuesday to decide that? I mean.
After the
are we saying-
22nd, but next Tuesday would be the ideal time for us.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what we can do is create a letter with some questions and email it to Casey.
Yeah.
And
Well, I think it needs to have he needs to know the numbers, I think, like the judge asked. What numbers would be left if that ETJ were taken out of your ESD?
right,
In other words, he had that cash flow proposal, and he showed all that to us. Well, what happens when you pull that out? What's
Right.
left? What's left?
that's the key right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So.
So defer it until the 16th?
Yes, sir.
Motion
So-
to defer. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pass. All right, let's see. Dustin?
So Judge, if it's okay, that was F3A and F3B.
Yes,
That was the
yes,
next step.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So we can move on to item F4. This is authorization of amendments to the McLennan County Employee Policy Guide. There are a few action items under here. F4A is regarding section 7.10, compensatory time, subsection B, time limit and maximum accumulation. F4B is regarding chapter 9 leave benefits, and F4C is regarding section 15.07, pay at separation. Anna?
Thank you, Dustin. Just to briefly summarize what was proposed in the last court session when we discussed these policy changes. This is just an overall change to our primary paid leave program, which is currently consisting of vacation and sick leave. So those are the paid leave benefits being offered to employees, and this proposed change is a transition to a PTO program. So this would convert current sick and vacation leave balances to PTO, which is a more general, flexible form of time off. It would also establish a family medical leave bank so that any overages of accruals for PTO could fall off and go into an FML bank that an employee would be able to access only upon approval of an actual family medical leave, which is administered through HR. Another primary change being proposed with these policy amendments is a change to our compensatory time and how it's administered. Our compensatory time is currently just accrued and available as a balance until an employer supervisor put it on a timesheet. The proposed change would transition comp time to an annual payout. So any unused compensatory time accrued in a fiscal year would be paid out at the end of the fiscal year, and that transition would involve an initial payout of all current comp time balances within this fiscal year. And then all the other primary leave types under policy 9 that is offered to employees would, those benefits amounts would remain the same, and there's no major change being proposed to those leaves. So the leaves I'm referring to that wouldn't have any changes would be our holiday leave, bereavement leave, military leave, civic or jury duty leave, paid quarantine leave for law enforcement and correctional officers, and mental health leave. Those would remain the same, but the overall Chapter 9 section of our employee policy guide, which covers leave, It'll be updated as a whole to reflect the correct term, which is PTO or paid time off, should the Commissioners Court choose to move forward with that transition or conversion. Just a quick run through of the estimated costs for changing over or making these changes to our leave program. We have the cost of transitioning just to a PTO program would involve just paying out current excess balances over 720 hours, which would be the new maximum accrual between Family Medical Leave Bank and PTO. There's only a handful of employees that actually have time off accrued over 720 hours. And that estimated cost is about $34,589. Of course, that's an estimate because people are still using time right now. And then the separate cost would be the cost of transitioning our comp time to an annual payout. So it involves an initial cost estimated at $503,694. And then moving forward into future years, if the court does want to transition to an annual payout, that would be estimated at $50,832. Those figures wouldn't include taxes and things like that. And that's my quick run through of what was proposed. And I can take any questions or concerns the court may have at this time.
And we did look through this again. We after the last meeting, both Anna, I, and I think Dustin all looked through these policies again, and minor changes or cleanups were made, but we just wanted to make sure we all were still on the same page and everything looked right, and it did.
Thank you, Mike.
Am I correct in saying that under comp time, once we, or should we decide to transition to this and the payout of comp time at the end of each year, that we would actually be saving money to the county because we're paying at current rate, not future rate of earning?
Right.
That would be correct, sir. So paying comp time within the year that it's actually earned would involve paying it out without carrying over a cost of living adjustment for the following year, which is the case now. And also, should an employee move into another position or promotion, it would only account for that within the current fiscal year. So
Exactly.
it would over time save money, even though we're seeing an annual cost of payout associated with it.
And wasn't that 65,000 going forward? You thought it would take to settle each year moving forward?
So originally we had looked at what was actually being, what comp time was being accrued through a year, and we had come up with, I think it was a couple $100,000. But when we actually looked at what was actually being used, Anna, mentioned the number around $50,000. So what that net amount is for each year.
5832.
It's hard to tell, of course. We have actually, Jessica in our office had done some research on what comp time looked like over time, and it has steadily declined on the comp time that our employees are earning. And so just looking at that, looking at the trend, we think about 50,000 would be an estimate of each year going forward. But again, we'll just have to kind of watch and see, keep an eye on it.
So on the pay time off among state and local government nationwide, the chart that's got the blue and box and then the orange box. So years of service on year one, vacation and sick days combined is 24 days. So that seems to be high for someone that's only been here 1 year. So, I mean, so where did do you think?
So we use,
Go ahead.
We used a few reference point. One was this national figure for state and local government through the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and they do break it down multiple tiers of service. We currently only have one kind of higher tier of service at 10 years. And so we wanted to keep that similar. The only change to the tier was lowering the threshold to 8 years, to where they can accrue more time once they reach 8 years, and we lowered it to 8 so that it matched our vesting period for retirement, and just thought that made sense. So we want to kind of keep, because we were changing so much, we wanted to at least keep that consistent, that tier. And then we also wanted to have what is earned very comparable to what's currently earned as well. And then it is consistent with both this national data when you average both of our tiers together of what a leave can be made available to an employee, and then also what is available locally with our competitors, like City of Waco for workforce-wise. So taking those into account, and also very comparable to other counties that actually have PTO currently. So those are the three main factors we took into account.
Currently, our employees, under current policy, after 1 year, what have they accumulated sick leave and vacation right now?
So currently on an annual basis,
if they didn't use any sick leave and their vacation time, what's the combined days on that?
what they can accrue over a year if they use no time and work a full-time schedule, they can accrue about 22 and a half days after their first year.
Okay, so so this is moving from 22 and a half to 24?
So the
orange part?
Well,
am I looking?
That figure is comparative data, so that's the national average.
actually, so 0 to 8 years is 22 and a half days.
Under current.
Yeah, so that means if you just start to work here, you get that, the first year you get.
I'm sorry, what I quoted was actually, what I'm proposing is the 22 and a half days.
Yeah. But, so our question 0 to 8, to me, for someone that's been here, let's just say they make that first year, to get that much PTO, it just seems way more than what's out there in the market, but I could be wrong, and I'm thinking more the businesses out there, the consequences of getting, I guess you'd say, liberal in this regard, is it creates more overtime, or it creates your department head or elected officials maybe to have more FTEs because there's so much time off. Mm-hmm. So, we want to be able to attract people and to keep them for sure. And, but I'm just wondering whether these tiers shouldn't be broke down a little tighter.
What does the City of Waco offer for first year employee?
I did have that handy. Sorry, I have a lot of reference material in front of me. I can email the exact figures to you, Commissioner, but it was very comparable to what we were what HR is proposing.
The 180 hours?
Yes, right, to what I'm proposing there, which is the 22 and a half days that somebody can accrue up to year 8, and then 8 and higher can accrue 27 and a half days. So it's very comparable to that, but aside from vacation and sick leave, the city of Waco has, they also have other leave benefits on top of that outside of sick and vacation. So I think these amounts here,
And I guess we
would be
would
a-
also should know what any type of state employee.
Well, on this page, it has the boxes. This is accumulation, the orange box
Years of service
is,
one.
what the, state and local government nationwide.
But, yeah, but I'm talking about the state of Texas where we are.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
I'd like to know a specific.
Tighter, a little tighter.
So Anna, PTO takes the place of sick days and vacation days, correct?
correct.
Okay, and under your proposal, 0 to less than 8, or 8, I guess, they would annualize out to 180 hours, right?
That they can accrue
That they can accrue. Of course, they
in
don't
a
accrue- they
year,
don't
but the
accrue.
maximum they can accrue is 240 hours of PTO.
And where does that number, where do you see that number? Down here? Proposed, so you're proposing that they accrue up to 240?
Right. Though annualized PTO, that's what somebody can accrue as a full-time employee in 1 year of employment. If
The
they don't use any
annualized,
time.
180 hours.
Right.
That's the most that an employee
No.
can accrue. So how do they get from 180 hours to 240 hours under?
Keep working.
Keep working. In other words, that's over a period of time, they can accrue up to that amount. And how many years would it take them to get there to 240?
240.
One
I mean-
day past 8 years.
One day past 8 years, they get to because it says 8
Uh,
plus up here, 220 hours.
Anna, I don't think 180 is the annualized amount. They would have the amount that they earned that year. The 1 year people would only have the amount they earned that year.
Right.
Which would be-
Correct.
Yeah, there's.
They would have to work a full year before being able to.
Before they,
So they're accruing this rate per hour. So every hour they worked, they earn that rate. And then over the span of a year, if they didn't use any time, that's what that would come out to, 180.
It
And
would
then-
take several years before they got to 180. Unless they're working massive hours.
Unless they're working and taking no time off. Right.
Right.
I don't think that Commissioner Smith's question was asked, or I don't remember, Commissioner, his answer was answered. It's is it 10 and 10 right now? 10 days of sick and 10 days of vacation? Is that correct for a new employee?
For a new employee, they can earn, I believe, 2 weeks of vacation over the span of a year, or, and for sick, it's like 2 weeks, more than 2 weeks that they can earn in sick time.
I think it's right at 12 days sick time.
that's at the end of 1 year?
Correct. So it's very comparable to what we currently have.
So that's where they came up with the 22, or 22 and a half.
10 days of vacation.
But that's a lot of sick days that, the whole reason for doing this is because I think that sometimes people may call in sick because fish are biting. And,
Yeah.
not me or you, but,
We don't fall under this policy.
so, anytime you have a policy that causes people to tell little white lies, you need to change the policy.
Right.
And so making PTO, for any reason, whether it's vacation or you're sick and you still have the backup of family medical leave for that, or you have something personal you want to do and you don't need to go tell your supervisor why. You can tell them when, but not why. And so I think the fact that, that's the beauty of it, we shouldn't have to match day for day by adding sick policy and vacation policy together. You know, for us allowing that kind of freedom, I think people will be, everybody wants more days, but I think something a little less than that would be, especially on that 1 to 8, 0 to 8.
What about something transferred over to PTO that's more comparable to what we currently have? Is that what you're saying?
Well, there's, I think she's saying it's comparable because you're adding 10 days of vacation and 12 days of sick leave.
And that's at the end of the first year.
Well, it's all the way through year 8.
Right, but you don't earn it until after the first year.
No, you earn it
You earn it
every
during-
Every
hour
year.
you work.
The first year,
Okay.
I mean, the first year, if you work 6 months, then generally companies allow you to use half a year of what's allowed for you, if you work it out with your supervisor and those kind of things. So, I mean, forget about the first year. Every year after that, you get 22 and a half days under this plan, all the way till you get 1 day past 8 years, and then it jumps to 27, 28 days. No, excuse me, I'm keep looking at the wrong page.
27 and a half days
Yeah,
about that you can accrue in a year.
so, that's over 5 weeks. I worked 30 years at a company that the maximum was 5. You had to be there 20 years to get up to 5 weeks, which I never used all of it, which is my problem, but, so my point is this, I think this is a real employee benefit, but within reason, within reason, because if we are too liberal on it, we're causing organizations or our departments to end up having more FTEs to cover it.
Can we ask Anna to tighten it up and come back with some ranges of options, or?
Well, it's whatever the court feels.
And this is just for new employees, correct? Because current employees are simply gonna take what they have on the books and convert them into the PTO system?
Well, it'll be for them going forward too.
Yeah, this is 23 on.
They won't lose what
Okay,
they
so-
got.
No, what I'm saying, like, if I have 40 hours of vacation and 20 hours of sick, does that mean that I'll have 60 hours of PTO? Or are we wiping everybody clean and we're starting with this? We're keeping our current leave and just transferring it into the PTO system?
Yes.
So what we're talking about for here is the new employees moving forward.
Earning, yes, and then you'll continue to earn. All employees will
Okay.
continue to earn.
Okay.
No, if we buy it out, we're wiping
out.
everything clean.
So you're buying out comp time,
Right out
Comp time,
Uh-huh.
not sick and vacation.
but
Oh, okay.
vacation and sick will be converted to either PTO or FMLA. And then there's a small group that even exceed that. And Anna, correct me if I'm wrong. And so that's been brought to you as well, that there's that pool of people that have some excess sick that need to be paid out, right?
That's correct, yes. And with regards to kind of tightening it up, we've kept the same language that we have in our current policy, that ultimately any time off must be approved by the supervisor or official. And so that same expectation and guideline is in the proposed policy as well. We kept that language in there because it is very much up to each department or office as to what they'll approve in the form of PTO.
Could you, Anna, work up the numbers that would mirror what we currently have, but move to PTO?
That is the 22 and a half days.
That is the 22.
Yeah,
That's the 22 and a half. So if we mirrored what we have, we'd go to 22 and a half.
Yeah.
and everything, but we tightened it from, did you say from 10 years that you moved it from 10 to 8, Anna, or put some more?
That's
steps?
correct. Just that it's still 2 tiers, which we currently have. We only have, a base tier where employees tenure 0 to 10 years earn at a particular rate. And then we have for employees meeting their 10-year anniversary earn at a slightly higher rate of time. And so that premise is the same. We're just lowering the threshold to 8 years.
10 to 8.
Is that the
Correct.
concern, Judge, when you talk about just having concerns, is it that 8-year plus 1 day employee, or is it?
I think
Because if it's what we're giving them right now.
But it's
But the
accumulated.
thing of it is, you're adding together sick and vacation, and generally, people won't use that much sick time, and we end up buying it out.
Well, and the other thing, judges, and Ben, is the fact that we're making sick leave compensable at separation. Normally, sick leave would not be compensable at separation, but when it's melded into PTO, PTO is payable at separation, even though it has a sick leave component.
I want to ask a question, because right now the current system is an accumulation of hours. Like employees on their first day at work, they don't have 22 days of sick. They accumulate that over time. So with the PTO system though, are we saying on day one, I have those 22 days, it's still the same accumulation over time? So they come in and they don't have 2 weeks off. They'll come in and they have to gain a day, just like we're accumulating now.
They earn it.
Just at
That is
the end
correct.
At the end of the year, if they don't take it, then they have those days.
So,
My thought would be, I'm just gonna is that I do hear what Mike is saying, and I think we talked about that at the last meeting, that sick time is turning into personal time off. And so employees are gonna have to, excuse me, have to be educated on that they personally have to save time for medical issues, if they have to be off for that, for a child they have to pick up from the school, et cetera. But right now, it works pretty much like it's working now. It just gives them that flexibility of using vacation or sick as personal time off. That's really the only difference. I do hear what he's saying about the separation, but I don't know how that comes in the wash over time. Like if
Well,
I
the reason it comes in is where the judge was saying this might be a little rich, as far as the number of days. One reason that might be is because we've changed sick leave to compensable leave from non-compensable leave. So,
Right.
So when they separate, they would have more days of paid leave than they would if we were just a vacation and sick leave shop.
That would more affect us in the immediate as opposed to over time. Because if today I had, say, 10 hours of sick and 10 hours of vacation, and then I left today, you're right, I would get paid those 20 hours as opposed to getting paid the 10 hours. But if I work over several years and it's converted to PTO, then technically that's what I accumulated as PTO under the new policy. I think that only hits us in the immediate. If somebody who has sick time now on the books and is converted and then they leave in the immediate, I think then that would hit.
Yeah, but part of the going forward is a substitute for sick leave. So I mean, it's a better deal for the employees. It is a better deal because they're part of their PTO is based on something that would not be compensable at their termination or at their ending of employment otherwise. And so it is a benefit to them.
But Mike, I mean, one of the reasons we were looking at this was to get the compensatory time off the books and not have it accumulate like it has and pay it out at the end of each year. If you pay it out at the end, I'm trying to think, but what we're saying then is that at some point, once we convert to PTO, then we wouldn't be paying out compensatory time anymore, or very little.
So
No, compensatory time's a whole different thing.
So when an employee separates from the county, we would pay off all of their accumulated PTO?
Right.
Right.
There's no way to, by policy, require an employee to use a certain amount of their PTO each year?
We have policies in place where the supervisors can require people to take PTO and are encouraged to require people to take PTO when they've got too much on the books. And the county also has the authority for any office or even down to any person to buy back PTO to lower their accumulation. But yes, we can, and it's even to the point where we can, not we, but the elected official or department head can, through the scheduling, require people to take compensatory time.
Generally, what companies do is if you haven't used your PTO days by the end of the year or a time designated, then you lose it. And so where I worked, they gave us till the end of February that if we had days left over for some reason or other, that we could use them in January and February. And which is pretty handy because there's several holidays in February you could match time, put them together and make a long weekend.
Well, I mean, I worked under a system where you accumulated sick days over a period of your career, but when you retired, if you hadn't used them, you lost them.
Yeah,
You lost them.
Right.
That's right.
And it's most places. You didn't get paid for them. You lost them.
And that's where we're at currently. You don't get.
Yeah.
But there's one thing that the policy does say, you get that 200 plus the 40 for PTO, but then for those employees that have sick leave in excess of that, and I'm sure there are many, because I was one of those employees that had sick leave in excess of that, it goes into FMLA. Now, right now, if you go out on FMLA, you're using your sick or vacation time in order to get paid through that time. So this does allow for time to go into FMLA if you have one of those qualifiable illnesses. And when you leave county employment, that goes away. You don't get to get paid out on any money, any hours that went into FMLA. So that may be how we're kind of protecting employees with medical issues and needing to be off for medical. Although the thing in there that employees have to understand is that you have to qualify for FMLA. You can't get that time just because you had a headache or you had a cold. It's a qualifiable reason, but you don't walk away with that money, with that time when you leave.
That's correct. And one of the reasons for that, the reason for the FMLA bank is so people just don't lose time. They still have the time they've accrued can mean something instead of just being terminated.
So a certain number of hours over accumulated PTO transfers to FMLA. Is that what we're saying?
That's
Alan?
correct. That's correct. So
that-
current
that would- That would
balances,
mitigate somewhat, and FMLAs aren't compensatory at separation, are they? Is that correct?
that is correct. They
So
would, that would be something not paid
one
out.
way of mitigating a future liability on the county, similar to what we have right now, I guess.
Right, and if
know
I
it's two
can
separate issues.
share some, I'm sorry, I was talking. If I can share some feedback, I've been able to gain from elected officials on the program and even some of our department heads. As that was mentioned in the last session, what officials who review the changes are thinking, and there are three primary concerns or points of feedback that I've heard consistently over them. It's just an overall concern for whether employees will lose time or the amount of time they can accrue. And so both of those would be no under this proposed program. Employees wouldn't lose any current time they have accrued. It'll either just roll over into FML or PTO, or for that very small population of employees that have over 720 hours, it would be paid out to them. And then also they're going to be able to accrue very comparable time to what they accrue now. And so that was a primary concern I was able to gauge from elected officials. And then also a very good just question that I received about the FMLA bank from department heads was if employees were approved for a family medical leave, they had all their medical documents in order and were able to get that leave approved. If they've had access to their FML bank before their PTO, so they wouldn't have to dip into their PTO. And that is also the case for how the policy is written. So employees could use that bank first prior to having used their PTO. So that was the second point that I was able to get in feedback. And then the third was kind of what judges mentioned and what I mentioned in the memo of kind of employees calling in unexpectedly to try to gain access to their current sick leave balances. That is something that my department has seen happen, and they like that this PTO gives that flexibility to, or hopefully employees would, because they don't have to call in with a cold or whatever the illness may be. The day of, they may provide the supervisor with more advanced notice and say, I just need to be out for a personal reason in a day or in 2 days, rather than calling the morning of and leaving that supervisor kind of fumbling for coverage. And so that was something that they were looking forward to being addressed through the PTO program. So those are the three main feedback. Overall positive feedback with just some clarifying questions that we can address with more education.
Is the initial payout cost built into the 23 budget already?
For comp time?
For comp time?
Yeah, yes.
So that's already in the budget that we've looked at?
Yes, we'll tweak it some based on just like watching, what we think the estimate is, but it's gonna come down from where we originally had estimated. So it is, but it
But
is
it's in,
baked
it's in the budget, it's already
Yes.
pasted in, okay.
Yes.
The most of our new hires are younger people, and they generally do not need the sick days that some folks that's been here 20, 25 years do. And I think I like scaling it. If younger people don't get as sick as often, then the only reason besides being sick that they'd access that is if they really wasn't using it properly, that they wanted to take off and they told a little white lie or whatever to get off those days. I'd like to look at a scale of, and I'm just gonna throw something out there. Because those new hires also are not really skilled, it's gonna take a while to get skilled in their job. And they need to be there more to do that. that I'd say from 1 to 3 years, it'd be 18 days. 4 to 8 years, 22 days. 9 to 20 years, 25 days. And I would even be willing to go 20, over 20, 21 on, up to 30 days. Which would be more level, but on the end, but generally those people that have been here that many years, they don't leave, they don't take off a few days and leave things in a mess. They've been doing that job, they really know what they're doing, they know how to take off and keep things together. And so I'd like for the court to consider something like that, and I'm just pitching it out there to.
Okay, Anna, can you come back with those numbers?
Yes, I can.
1 to 3, 18, 4 to 8, 22, 9 to 20, 25, and 21 to moving forward, 30. Judge, is that what you were saying?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I can do that, and I'll also try to provide a breakdown of our current workforce and see kind of count-wise how many employees would fall under the
Yeah, how
individual
many would
tiers.
fall under each of those? Yeah. And,
Right. I do also want to mention that according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, there's an overall downtrend or decline in the average tenure of the workforce or amount of time spent in any one particular
Right. Yeah.
employer.
Okay. Okay, if you would do that, and kind of how it compares to current right now, in other words, right, if you take the midpoint, somebody at 2 years, what do they have? Somebody at 6 years, what do they have? Somebody, somewhere between 9 and 20, what's that, 11, 5, somewhere around 14 years, what do they have currently? How does that compare to what we currently have? So,
Yes, sir.
Judge, my motion would be to, I guess, defer this unless there's parts of it that we can approve or do we need to see the whole picture?
I would think we need to see the whole picture.
Okay.
But we do need to move on this, well, keep working on it and get it done because
Yes.
we want to pay that out before we go into the next year and put COLA on top of it. So, so that's we need to get it done prior to approving our budget.
Okay. Yeah.
Francis, you have any questions or anything about any of it?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. All right. Anna, anything else?
No, thank you for the feedback.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion to defer. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made. You made the motion.
Did I make the motion?
Yes, sir.
Second.
All right.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? No other discussion, you gotta watch him.
I tried.
He might be one of those guys that goes fishing on a sick day. I don't know.
Little one-man shop.
All right, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Passed. Let the record show that Commissioner Jones left a few minutes ago before the vote. All right. Dustin, what's next?
All right, Judge. So under item D, Human Resources, Salary Matters, D1's Information Technology, Discussion and Interaction regarding replacement of director. Anna, didn't know if you just had a quick update. I know you gave one last week, or we just need to hold this.
Yes, if you could just hold it. Dustin, I don't have any new information at this time.
All right, thanks.
So Judge, we can just show no action taken and we'll have it back on the next agenda.
Okay.
So then moving on to item E, budget amendments. E1's regarding the FY23 budget. Francis, did you have anything for today?
So I wanted to make sure that Anna didn't have anything today for 2023 budget other than what we just talked about. I'll let her chime in if needed, but I just wanted to just give you a little update and then, just kind of let you know where we are right now. So of course, we've filed the proposed budget. There's a lot of these topics that are ongoing, the zoo, these comp time balances. There were some things that were decided upon for the magistration. So those things are things that will adjust the proposed budget in the end. One thing that we still need to cover, there's not a lot of, I think, budgetary things to ponder. I wanna go through them all, and that's gonna be special revenue funds. So we've had a lot of changes to those for this next year. So I wanna walk through those with you, remind you of what funds are there, what changes have been made. We have a few new funds. I don't know if that's something that you'd like to do today, or if we just wanna wait until we meet next
How long
week.
do you think it'll take you?
I don't, maybe 30 minutes.
Well,
So it's just up to you.
I've got to be at a meeting at noon, and it doesn't take me very long to get over there, but, so I guess,
Come back after lunch, I don't.
Judge has got a meeting after lunch.
And we can cover this next week too. It's just,
Let's
you
just do
know,
it next week.
okay.
That's fine with me.
Just checking things off the list, so
all right,
I'm ready when y'all are.
okay.
Um,
And, go ahead.
And so, you know, just want to cover those again, just kind of go over what our special revenue funds look like, what we're spending the money on, what we're proposing to spend that money on. And then again, just, you know, keeping these items going, like the judge mentioned, you know, making sure that we have some decisions or consensus made before we adopt the budget at the end of August.
Just, as long as we're open to meeting when we need to, I don't wanna get in a crunch.
Yeah, you're right.
Because we keep
I
putting this
agree.
off and putting this off, so.
I agree.
If we need to meet, let's do it.
We didn't have another meeting, for that matter.
Right.
Well, covering around the transfer to their department as well. So my plan is that after lunch that day, depending on if there's still regular agenda items that have to be covered, but going into budget,
Okay.
if we could plan maybe on going back into Wednesday afternoon too, if needed, to
That'll
get all
work.
that hashed out.
I've got an appointment that I can change with Waco Housing Authority, so I'll ask Cody to reschedule that, so I'll be available. And of course, you and I'll be at that lunch at the judges, Board of Judges, and then we'll come back and reconvene, and we'll try to clean up everything that's out there.
Yes.
So
On the 17th?
that is the 17th. You're right.
Yeah, Wednesday the
Yes.
That'd be
17th.
the afternoon.
It's actually, yeah, okay, did you say Wednesday or did you say
So-
Tuesday?
Tuesday, you know, whenever the regular
60.
agenda is over, we can go straight into budget. So just depending on how much time is left that day, it's always hard to
Okay,
tell.
I can do,
Would Wednesday be a smarter move since we may need time
I've
to?
gotta,
You can't,
yeah.
okay. 'Cause I'm just saying, I hate to see us get pinched from what happens in
Yeah.
the judges' meeting and all of a sudden we gotta make a decision.
Well, if everybody's good for after, all right, we have Commissioners Court meeting, we can recess at, we can recess at 11:30. We'll attend the judges' meeting. We'll be back here by 1:30. We can crank up and we can go as long as we need to stay.
It's on the 16th?
16, yeah.
Sounds great.
And then, if need be, recess till the evening of the or the afternoon of the 17th?
I'll be out of town. I've got a one-day trip that I've gotta make.
Okay, so strictly on the 16th then? Nothing on the 17th?
No, sir.
About what? That,
I just left it.
what is it, the 16th? Well, I'm gonna have to move, I can't do it. So it's Pete Sessions? I guess, I mean, I do have it on my calendar, but I didn't know it was his dog pump show this weekend.
And that's when we set the ESD thing, right?
It's what?
16th.
Right, we'll have to do
We
that.
gotta have a decision on that day.
Yeah, we'll do that as well. I mean, we really need to get it knocked out on Tuesday, the 16th. Give everybody time. And, you know, hopefully, I'll hear back from the city in regards to interlocal agreement that we're trying to craft pertaining to the funding, zoo funding needs and those kind of things. So I'll press to see if we can get that done and need your help on the anything else out there pending?
No, so we'll just have, you know, these things, like you said, just ready to crank out next Tuesday, get through them as quickly as possible. You know, each thing that we change on the proposed budget, we like those to be a formal vote so that we can walk forward that proposed budget, your decisions you make to get to the adopted. It just makes it very clear for anyone that's, for the public to follow along. Then also, just for the record, I just want to state into the record, we are still, of course, looking at Tuesday, August 30th at 5:30 PM in this Commissioner's courtroom in McLennan County Courthouse. There will be time for public comment on the tax rate, and then a formal public hearing will be held on the budget, and then you will be voting on the budget and the tax rate.
At 5, after the 5:30 meeting.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
August 30th, 5:30.
Okay. Anything else? So, thinking there's one other thing. Dustin or Jane, you have anything else?
No, sir, that should cover everything.
Okay. All right. Thank y'all very much. We stand adjourned.